Not your mic unmuted, right?
Yeah, I never touched it, so. Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, guys, welcome to the Bassmaster Classic. I know everybody that's watching right now, live streaming, guys, wishes you were here. Cannot tell you how incredible it feels to be here at the Classic. We've all been, really worried. This Classic was originally scheduled for March, got pushed back to now. But guys, it is incredible. The crowds are phenomenal. The St. Croix booth here is incredibly busy. Everybody's here, guys, and there's a lot to be excited about right now. So I'm going to spend a few minutes with you guys just talking about some of the, some of the techniques that I use. St. Croix has such a vast variety of rods. I mean, when you think of St. Croix, you think of they've got everything from ice fishing to bass fishing and beyond. But even if you just concentrate on bass fishing, I guess it can be really difficult to say, okay, I'm going to approach a new body of water. This is the technique that I'm going to try to key on the most, and so this is the rod for that application that I kind of use. And I'm going to kind of show you guys a little bit behind of how my brain works and how I choose a specific rod. Some of you guys, you Bassmaster fans out there, you've seen me on Bassmaster Live this year use a couple of different rods, and have success with it, especially the new Victory that you guys are very familiar with, along with my favorite, the Legend Extreme. But, I want to take you guys back a little bit. If you guys remember, back in February this year, the first Bassmaster Elite Series tournament, St. John's River, you guys got to watch me for 4 days on Bass Live, feature this rod right here, the brand new Victory that we released. Funny story behind this for all the St. Croix family out there is that I got to release this rod on Bassmaster Live 2 days before we were actually supposed to release this rod to the general public. I'd been a big part of the Victory series and the development for the past 2 years behind the scenes to get this rod perfect for the angler that's out there. And so I had to make that phone call 2 days before the release date and say, hey guys, I'm about to be, published to the world on national TV with this Victory rod. So we got to release it to you guys a couple of days later. And thanks for everybody that's reached out about it. I've directed a lot of people to the rod I was using for that. And a lot of you guys have seen me around the country throw a weightless wacky worm. A weightless wacky worm is one of those baits that about 3 years ago I've never thrown. I never threw a weightless wacky worm. It takes a lot of patience and a lot of practice to be able to throw it on the correct setup to get that bait where you want it and where the fish are. And a weightless wacky worm, guys, will catch fish when nothing else will. I kid you not, it will catch fish when nothing else will. Especially if you're in a place, a target, underneath the dock, underneath a tree where no other bait can get. That wacky worm, if you put it underneath there and you present it right, they just can't stand it. They're gonna eat it, guys. So a little bit behind the rod that I choose for a wacky worm, and that application, of course, is that Victory series on a spinning rod. This is a 7.3, guys. This is what makes this Victory line so unique, is that you're getting these tweener sizes. You now have a 7.1, a 7.2, a 7.3 to choose from, and to me, a 7.3 is that perfect rod length, especially for that weightless wacky worm. And I choose, and this is a light tackle and stuff like that on a medium light or something like that. I kind of go toward the heavier rods, guys, because I truly believe that the number one and most important thing when you're throwing a setup like this and in finesse is getting the hook in the fish's mouth, especially when you're fishing deep or you're making long casts. Because guys, whenever you're making a long cast and you're throwing 8-pound fluorocarbon, when you lean into that fish, that's not a lot of pressure at the hook point. So you need to make sure you get a hook into that fish fish's mouth. That way you can get good hook point penetration, but you have to trust your equipment. So this 7.3 right here, the perfectly moderate action, extra fast tip, guys. You have the backbone that you want to really lean into them and get that hook into that fish's mouth, but it also still has a good enough tip to be able to skip that wacky worm underneath the dock and get that bait in places where just simply no other bait can go. So that 7.3 MXF Victory rod, spinning rod by St. Croix is just an absolute must-have, especially when you're fishing a wacky worm. So you think of some other things, so we went to St. Lawrence River. You guys actually saw me on Bassmaster Live for Lake Guntersville, use this exact same setup to catch a couple of great big ones there, guys. And what a lot of people don't know, guys, is Bassmaster Live, I caught an 8-pounder on it and Santee Cooper last year on this exact same setup, but I could not plug this particular rod because it was still in prototype stage. But I knew what St. Croix had by this Victory series with those tweener sizes. Very, very important, guys. And of course, if you guys all know, the Victory series rods has that price point that anybody can afford, $180 to $200. And guys, and you wonder why it's so good. If you guys know, I love the Legend Extremes SE6 technology. That's why that blank is so incredibly light and sensitive. And then you blend it with an SE3 material, and you get the perfect material. It's a good blend. It gives you the same lightweight and sensitivity that you would get more from a Legend Extreme, but at a price point that everybody can afford. So we're moving on to a different one. We've got a couple of events coming up right now. We have 2 more events with the Bassmaster Elite Series. So, I'm going to give you a finesse technique up there and also a power fishing technique. Guys, I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, so I was born shallow fishing, power fishing, big rods, but then again, I've won a lot of money in my career on the spinning rod right now. So let's talk about St. Lawrence River a little bit. That is a very unique fishery, guys. Smallmouth, deep, and current. You've seen us on Bass Live before, drifty shoals in deep water. And so you figure, okay, I want a longer rod for that. And that's just drop shot, half-ounce drop shot weight. I'm not going to go with a 7.3 Victory on this. I'm actually going to go with a 7-foot medium power, extra fast Legend Extreme, and I'm going to show you that rod. So the Legend Extreme that I know everybody's familiar with, you guys have seen it. Probably not everybody has actually held this rod in their hand. But guys, you have to hold this rod to actually believe it. It is one of the lightest, most sensitive rods on the market. So, like I said, when I'm fishing current like that, so when you're fishing current or vertically, whether you're dropping down to a fish that's deep, or, we kind of use the same approach when we're drifting those shoals and we're drifting current backwards, is we get right over it. We have to drop down to it, and we have to let the current naturally drift us through. That's why I'm not going to go with a 7.3 or a 7.4 spinning rod with that drop shot technique, because I want the bait as close proximity to me in the boat to stay directly below me the entire time. And I did this also. I was able to showcase this a little bit at St. Clair and St. Lawrence River last year. But this 7-foot Legend Extreme is the absolute ticket for that, because you got to picture, you're in 30 foot of water. I've got a 2-mile-an-hour current that I'm trying to drift with. I have 15-pound braid to an 8-pound fluorocarbon leader, 30 foot down. So you can imagine that far down how hard it is to keep sensitivity. You have to be able to sense and really feel when those smallmouth actually eat this thing. And that is actually where I got to put the Legend Extreme before it came out, the new one, to the test. In that deep water, you've got a big bow in your line because of current. You can actually feel that fish pick it up, which is extremely hard to do in that deep of water. You have to be able to differentiate between a rock down there, because you're constantly coming over rocks, and the bite of a fish. And to be able to do that in just a split second quicker is the name of the game, because that's the difference if you catching the fish or getting hung up on a rock or missing that fish altogether. So the sensitivity is absolute key when when you're going there. So I'm going up, like I said, St. Lawrence River. I'm going to be drifting current, deep. I'm going to want a 7-foot, a little bit shorter rod, but I want to maximize my sensitivity. That 7-foot medium extra fast by Legend Extreme by St. Croix Rods, guys, is the absolute ticket. But like I said, guys, now Victories come in the same size as well. If you're not one of those where that budget does not fit you, go to the Victory series, because you're going to get a lot of the same attributes that you're going to get in this Legend Extreme and a Victory as well, but it's something that you can afford. So from South Louisiana, I've showed you guys the finesse techniques that I like, that I've had a lot of success with. But what I want to do is show you a power version, because guys, again, I'm from South Louisiana. I grew up fishing shallow. If I had to choose one rod to put in my hand, I would get a big stick out with some braid, big fluorocarbon, big baits, and I'd flip grass. So last stop of the Bassmaster League Series, Lake Champlain, lots of milfoil, guys, and it's kind of, Lake Champlain, it's famous, it's upstate New York, but there's a lot of milfoil in there, and every year largemouth are a huge player. And you guys have seen people like Seth Fighter last year have a lot of success flipping milfoil. So, and I want to show you the rod that I'm going to choose to do that, because I can promise you this South Louisiana guy is going to be doing a lot of that. But I'm going back to the Victory series. That Victory series 7.4 heavy fast right there is going to be on my front deck for that. That 7.4, guys, again, when you're flipping like that, one of the most common mistakes anglers make in anything that they do is they try to choose a rod that's too big for them. Anytime you're making repetitive casts, repetitive flips, and you know who I'm talking about, or fishing a frog, and your forearms start to get fatigued. Whenever that starts happening is when you need to start making a change. That means you might be fishing a rod that's too big, too long for your body type. But some guys, hey, if you're 6 foot, 6'2", 6'4", and above, guys, then some of the 7.6 to 7.11s may suit you a little bit better. But the average American, that 7.4 range is really kind of that sweet spot. You want something that, because you get too long, not only are you going to fatigue yourself, you're going to start losing accuracy. That 7.4, again, 7.4 heavy fast. Guys, I'm going to flip this on 20 to 25 fluorocarbon. I like a big jig and a lot of milfoil, so I'm going to be doing a lot of that at Lake Champlain. But these rods, guys, all the rods that I just showed you, we can go through so many different techniques. But guys, I can promise you're going to find a rod that's going to fit exactly what you need. The first thing that you need to do is do your homework. Make sure that you kind of key in on that rod length. That's you. Like I said, the most common mistake anglers make is they choose the wrong rod. Somebody that gets in a boat with me that's 5 foot 8 inches tall, and he's trying to flip with a 7 foot 11 rod, you're going to lose accuracy, you're going to lose sensitivity, and you're simply going to get over fatigued. Find that group first. Come to us, guys. You guys are watching on Facebook, YouTube right now. Shoot us a message. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions for a rod of our choice. And heck, if you guys want to reach out to me and message me, you can message me on Facebook, Instagram. I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have with that. But look, if there's a reason why St. Croix makes so many different lines of rods. We're all different. If we all like the same thing, there would be only one rod, and St. Croix understands that. But guys, thank you guys for being customers. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I wish everybody watching right now could be here, Bassmaster Classic Expo. And but you guys, stay tuned. Shoot any questions you have to us, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks for joining in.